Started with my wife buying me a homebrew kit, probably about 9 years ago. Like most people when they start brewing, it kind of happens in your kitchen. If you get a bit more serious, you move to your garage, and then if you get very serious, you buy a brewery. My name is Julian. I am the current owner of Just Brewing Company and a partner in At Hops End, which is a collaboration of breweries. Commercially, we've been brewing since 2014. That was basically when the big rise and starting up of a lot of craft breweries around the country was around about the 2013, 2014. We had a couple of the pioneers, obviously, like the Nottingham Road Brewing Company and Mitchell's, who had obviously started in the 80s and 90s, you know, but they were really once off, and it was amazing because those are the other things that drove me to go into this wonderful thing called craft beer. First lockdown came in March 26, and I won't forget that because it was my wife's birthday. We couldn't even go out for a meal on that night, you know. So when that first started, it was really heartbreaking. When they announced it the third time, I just sank for a lot of people, especially people that have now invested in smaller restaurants to try and build up, you know, and hoping for good weekends, especially that it's supposed to be the tourism season where people go away and have a break and can spend time at these wonderful establishments. So first of all, obviously the revenue flow comes to a complete grind. We've had to look at alternate options of packaging different drinks. For example, we were doing some energy drinks for another company. I know other breweries have actually turned to making hand sanitizer. And then a couple of breweries in the Cape area have actually turned their brew house into soup kitchens, providing more than 2.5 million meals for people that obviously can't provide for themselves at the moment. Everybody's obviously got their, as they call these days, they always said you got to get your hustle, you got to get going. I think keeping positive is the main thing. A lot of people have been affected by this. There's a lot of people that are way worse off than us. More than 30% of craft breweries have closed in the last year. And that excludes obviously a lot of restaurants and people in the trade and obviously tourism industry that has completely decimated that sector as well. Currently employ 3 people part-time, obviously. Unfortunately, we don't have the revenues to run a full shift. We used to run a little restaurant as well. From last year we had 11 people, so we had to let 8 people unfortunately go. We supported them as much as we could to the end of May, so all the money that we kind of made between January and March we gave back to the staff in terms of e-wallet, and then obviously the money, it only goes so far, you know, and with being contract workers and that, you know, they don't get the benefits of UIF and things like that. But you know, we've got 3 good staff. They've all been re-skilled in a brew house. One was my chef, the other one was my front of house, and the other one was my head waiter. So we've now had to re-skill them in terms of helping out in the brewery, showing them the safety, because a brewery is, I'm not going to say a dangerous place, but there are hazards. So currently we're running a short week. We're only working 2 or 3 days a week, and at the moment we've taken product that's been in kegs that we normally give to restaurants and that, and we're actually packaging it, putting it into the cold room and reopening our online stores, encouraging people to purchase online, that we can ship immediately as soon as lockdown is lifted, you know. Other than that, it's very difficult. So I mean, we could probably not be working in 2 weeks from now if they haven't lifted it, simply because we've run out of work. We're busy cleaning all our current kegs, so after we package, we clean, we sanitize, and we get ready for the next batch. So hopefully we can get the wheels running again as soon as possible. It's terrible. It's gut-wrenching, you know. You've got to go to another place and say, listen, yeah, unfortunately, you know, it's not a decision that's taken lightly, and I feel sorry for every person in my situation, whereby you're just getting going again and you've got to stop. And because of that, as I said, there's not a infinite bucket of money. We've got to still pay rent. We've still got to keep the lights and water running. And landlords are being very difficult during this time as well. People are battling to negotiate with landlords to say, listen, we can't sell, we don't have revenue, how are we going to pay the rent? And then some of them have been nice, but there's a lot of them out there, unfortunately, that are not. So it's very, very tough. Maintaining staff and obviously their salaries, keeping them positive. They've all got families to go home to. They've all got to help, try and rebuild this economy. But obviously we can't sit around doing nothing once everything's done and then, still get paid. It doesn't work like that. I mean, we're not pulling salaries at the moment either. So it's quite tough, We used to have a little brew pub, as mentioned. In terms of that, closing the restaurant, I mean, the amount of people we had to turn away and close, even when we reopened in August last year, we couldn't restart the restaurant because of the minimum amount of people that were allowed. So if you've got a 150-seater restaurant, 50 people are not going to keep the restaurant afloat, So losing customers was a big thing. We did maintain some of them online, but nowhere near obviously what we were doing. 95% of our business was on consumption. You're coming for a beer experience, a tasting, a tour, a sit down, beautiful scenery and things like that. We used to be in the Modderfontein Reserve. We've moved out of that. So we lost a lot. We've had to recoup, regather, and we've changed our business model as well. So some of the smaller breweries that have closed and sold equipment, we're now selling and helping them with their brands here. So we're basically doing beer as a service, whereby you can either come and brew your brand here, or we can brew it for you and then just you come and distribute it basically. But in terms of customer losses, many. Open off-con, that works. People can purchase and go home and enjoy it in the comfort of their own home. Online, if possible, Basically either have a click and collect where people can place their orders and come and collect directly from the venues, the breweries, or they can get it delivered to the house in the comfort of their homes. We are small, independent brewers that, don't have massive fields of grapes and that. They're having a huge issue in the wine industry, but the same applies for the craft beer industry at the same time as well. Open the tasting rooms, come and taste, take your package, go home and enjoy at home. You've still got the curfew, so you're not going to have people in restaurants or in nightclubs or in places like that consuming vast amounts of it. You'll be doing it in the comfort of your own home. Yeah, so I think policing the curfew is important, and also just policing venues, when they say 50 people and you go in and it's not 50 people, shut it down accordingly, but there's a curfew in place. So I encourage people, if they can, to support the business online. I know there's a lot of initiatives from the Beer Association and the Craft Beer Association. Get in contact with them. If you are able to give 250 Rand, 300 Rand for food vouchers, it'll go a long way in the industry.